group, there are 5 play days. That means each team gets 1 bye day. Otherwise, they play every single day. So it's Koi versus Wild here on Cafe for this very last one. Ban starting out. It's going to be a Ying ban coming in from Koi.
Okay, I'm obviously thinking towards the executes there, not wanting to have to deal with those Candelas that we saw used quite frequently in the last matchup between G2 and BDS. We'll have Nomad following on, which is just going to free up the potential for, you know, the odd little jump out, the odd little run out, particularly, you know, I'm thinking towards areas like the East Rappel. If you're on a top floor defence, you'll get players up on that cocktail window, balcony window. It just gives you the option then to get out of that reading door.
What I can't ignore is that if a team bans away a Nomad, that's because you want to be aggressive on your defensive side on towards the other team. So when we see Koi go onto the attack in the second half of this map, keep a real close eye on the aggressive players on the side of Wild, namely looking towards players like Aces, looking at Jegs, Teb a little bit in there as well. Those are the 3 that I expect to be trying to test Koi and finding opportunities to try and flank onto them. So if that doesn't happen, it's a waste of a ban. Time will tell on that front though. I think with Koi banning away the Ying is also good because kind of how we commented on this back on Bank earlier on at the very start of the day. The Sense ban came out and it was largely, we said, you know, just to make attacks that little bit harder. If teams are more reliant on that operator for the executes, it makes sense to take it away. It's a similar story here. You're removing Hungry's trump card, right? Because Hungry, as many may well know, is a massive Ying player. Yes, we haven't seen him in Tier 1 for about 15 to 18 months, but you get the gist. Luster Operator will make things at least a little bit harder here, where Wild can't just take ground for free thanks to those Candelas.
Interesting from Deepak, all the way down in Wedding there, just ripping the barricade down on the window. I don't think he's planning on going out of there, although it would be interesting to see if he does. Packbull does have a drone down in that sort of region, so just needs to be cautious, doesn't want to overcommit to that.
I think with the whole hole coming on the side of Piano here as well, I'm really quite excited because you've got the castle barricades to help, you've got a couple of his armies down. With the fact that there's a keeper barrier on minibar, just as they want to play someone inside of there, block out the angle for him to be taken down for free, and they really want to make Wild fight for every little bit of this top floor, which is the way to go on this top floor. You want to slow them down as much as you can out towards Red Hatch. You want to force them to really invest resources and utility in taking control of Piano. So they're hoping here to force Wild into the long way through, to really have to wade through the mud to get anywhere near sight. But so far, Wild has started out on anywhere but that Red Hatch.
Yep, the sledge going straight away to take the castle barricade down off cocktail balcony. Need to be aware, obviously, Packbull going to be droning in from that location. There's no Nomad, so there is the opportunity for Koi to get themselves out of a window or door potentially to deal with this East Rappel, as I suggested. But for the time being, it's looking like they're not wanting to get quite so aggressive. Teb is going to try working from the skylight to begin with, thinking about a nade, looking at potentially just putting it down at the feet of the castle there inside a cocktail. Will do so, but Leader taking very little damage. Takes a bit more though, as Jeg sees him through the window.
I mean, they really should know about this as well. They know that they've had players on this East Rappel for the longest time. You can hear them. Just didn't expect to find his man, and Noodle's almost gone down as well, but has made his way down White here. Is he fancying his chances getting out of White? Very maybe. And even brings down Hungry on his way through. Back into a 4v4 with half the round gone.
This is just going to be challenging there, stuck in behind the bookcase at the minute. Teb manages to find Leon. I think that was just coming in from the skylight area again. 4 versus 3 now. In the advantage of Wild for the time being, and if they can cut out this final man, it could be a danger. Aces goes for the battle, but he's going to shoot too high. Noodle in the crouch manages to get the kill, and that leaves us now in a 3 versus 3, and you just feel like there could be a bit of an advantage for Koi there. But look at this, Deepak, he's going to have to fight the man at the top of White Stairs.
A world when Deepak's the one playing out slightly more aggressive in positioning on something like an Azami. What a wild time. Wild changes coming in for the team. Here comes Mr. Bull, holding down F for dear life and praying that no one from Koi manages to sting him in the back, and it's Noodle working his way up White Stairs. In fact, Packbull pulls off the plant here as well. I think a little bit aware of potential aggression coming in as Crying brings down Jegs. That's the kind of play you want. A 2v2 at least for now, as Deepak's still holding tight. Sees his man, but Teb wins it out first. It's a 1 versus 2 for Crying. As now Noodle is back on his feet.
Packbull manages to stick that plant, and it gives a big advantage over to Wild. WYLDE. 2 versus 2, but there's kills that need to be found for the side of Koi, and WYLDE are just holding their long angles now. One under New Hatch.
That's a piano. Okay, coming around piano behind them.
Cigar. This could be a big flank, but no, the shooting will give them away. They're going to use the deployable shield there, but time is ticking down. Packbull, he finds the long angle from behind the Maestro spot, and we're just playing a little ring around the roses now as Teb, he tries to pick up his man from under the New Hatch. Will do as he finds Crying, puts him down, and that's going to be WYLDE taking round 1.
What a world when a Nook is the one going in for a plant as well. Packbull has always been that hard breach player, but doing so on a Nook, interesting. Still gets the plant down regardless, and it is a good first round coming out of WYLDE. Koi not going to stick towards that top floor, instead rotating down to the second floor for reading and fireplace here. And I think what really kind of spun that round upside down for Koi was the fact that WYLDE had so much pressure on the east side of the building. Whether it was Skylight with the nades coming down, whether it was Jegs hanging off on the rappel, just made it really difficult for the backline of Koi to do too much maneuvering. And truthfully, a lot of that round was really held together by Noodle, who was almost tagged down by Jegs from that window, but managed to get 2 kills. He picked up Hungry first, he got the second kill on the downstairs. He kept Koi competitive, and honestly, without him, WYLDE probably would have run that round a hell of a lot sooner.
Round 2, as you say, going to be heading downstairs 1 level here. Koi, you're going to be taking us. The thing is, I'm not too sure about that because this side defends pretty similar to Bar and Cocktail overall. They're going to be trying to hold on to similar positions. They don't need to keep control of quite as much of the top floor, but still, they need to shut down the same pathways, the same avenues, the same aggression from WYLDE more than likely. The East Rappel could be a danger again. The Skylight could be a danger again. So Koi, they need to have some answers this time.
They do. I mean, also you'll give it to them. Let's not forget again what we said throughout the vast majority of this day. What you see in the first half isn't always the way it's going to play out. And equally, it's the first day for a lot of teams. They're coming up against teams they haven't scrimmed, they haven't seen as a roster for the longest of times. They've had new changes themselves. Let's not forget exactly how disastrously it started for G2 on their map on Theme Park. Down 4-0, only to win 7 of the next 8 rounds and bring it back against BDS for a 7-5 win. WYLDE go much more conventional with the start of this map, though, or this round, sorry. Starting out on the Red Hatch, working their way through. No doubt, slightly caught out here by Noodle on the Pulse as they back themselves away here out towards Cocktail and look to drop down as the pressure builds.
Yeah, I really thought we might have some early aggression coming out of WYLDE there. We had 4 of them stacking up on the hatches, and I thought that they were just going to flood down there and try and deal with the couple of Koi players that were holding on to the top floor, but they didn't quite take that opportunity. They've decided instead to play behind the utility, send the drones in, get the information, and play this sort of smart and slow, and that's not the end of the world. 1 minute 45 left to go. They need to be getting themselves inside soon, though, because the top floor is not the entirety of the attack.
This player's going to be held back. I think it's Crying as well, playing on the Jaeger. Tucked in here tight. If he tries to go for a break across, there's a fair chance he gets tagged down. Sure, has the support from Leon, but outside of that, there's not really much he can do except run when it comes down to it and pray to God they don't catch him. But there's a lot of opportunities here for WYLDE as they're slowly encroaching their way forwards. All I will say, Tim, is we are 1 minute and 14 to the round and they're still only just now looking to get control of storage.
Yeah, Koi have done a good job of wasting a lot of time on the top floor here, much better than they did in the last round. Deepak, he's going to pick up aces for an opener, and what a late opener, nearly 2 minutes into the round, takes down the Ash, and that just, again, makes WYLDE have to think twice. They're not really pushing forward, they're starting to stall out a little bit here, but they know they're not going to get anywhere near sight without this top floor control.
Really trying to force it with grenades here as well, stopping this white flank coming up, but as they step forward, it's one coming back to Leon. Instant response though, so good 2 versus 1 play coming out from WYLDE. They're looking for that top floor control. They know where Crying is. He can't find a kill in response, and now there's a little bit penciled in inside a Cocktail. He's got to try and battle his way out. Will find one. Packbull cannot hit the shots. A 4v2 for Koi. It looks like this round might be going their way, Tim.
What a great answer from Crying there. Just created himself the space he needed to get back to sight. But WYLDE do have top floor control, can start working down the white stairs, but they are playing into a man disadvantage. They've got a little bit of time, 5-10 seconds that they could maybe use those verticals for, but beyond that they need to think about getting the diffuser down. There's going to be no spray coming through the wall, and Hungry, he's going in for this. The cover is going to be all important. Deepak looking to go for the peak. Can he find his man? He doesn't need to, as Noodle does it for him. There's the final kill. The plant was down, but it didn't matter. Hungry loses his life, and WYLDE, they lose the round.
All right, I mean, the intent was good. I think they probably blindsided Koi a little bit in round 1. That second round there, just a little bit too slow taking a bit too long to get inside a piano, and I looked at why that might be, and it didn't come down to a lack of information. They still had 7 drones alive as they were trying to work their way in towards White Corridor. It just felt like they were a little bit lost and maybe stuck on how to break open the cocktail hold. And even with the pressure starting to build up, there was still a response coming out. Leon, before he lost his life, brought down one of the 2 players pushing him. Crime was dug in there for the longest time on the upstairs as well. Just a little bit more pace maybe needed out of Wild here to keep Koi on edge and being punished for small mispositions and things like that, because right now they are being afforded a lot of time and space.
They are, absolutely. It was a better round from Koi, certainly controlled Wild better. The conventional push not really working for them. We saw large periods of them just stalling out there in the middle of the round, so that's something obviously they need to consider going forward. But overall, Koi, I'm sure, will be pretty satisfied with that. Going to be taking us back up to the top floor though, so the question here for Wild is, which approach do you take? Coming in from the hatches hasn't really worked last time around, whereas the east side, the cocktail balcony push, really did work for them. Are we going to see them double down on that, or will they be going for the more default push?
Of course, it's Deepek in the making. Leon being the one to make use of his teammates' normal strategies here and looking to use one of those yokai drones to get it out the drone hole externally and then hop it around and see what he can find. If you didn't know that these yokai drones, they can be outside for up to 10 seconds, which means you can get them outside, you can see where the push is coming from, you can spot a couple of players on the rappel. And we all know what kind of damage you can do with that information. A jump out of a window, a couple of players dead, a peek out a doorway at the bottom of White, for example, and it is freebie all day for the defenders as long as they're willing to play that aggressive.
So as a reminder of how this game sits, it is one of our Group B games. Of course, M&M taking a win earlier, so whoever can come away here, potentially with a full 3 points, it is a massive land grab for them, essentially. Rockets them up into joint first, depending on the round count. 7-4 was the score to M&M, so anything better than that would see them take top spot for the time being. You know, it's looking pretty good for them in terms of those top 3 spots that we keep talking about in the groups here. So definitely a lot on the line between these two, and so far we've seen some sparring, we've seen some back and forth halfway through the round. We're going to have a Gemini clone taken out there. Don't get overexcited.
No, a silent supernova is more what I'm just like, okay, just okay, Leon, okay. But then the thing is, I know the bearing now is actually a pretty mean gun, so you can afford to play the shotgun up nice and close. Just a silent shotgun's a little bit crazy. Here we go then, Jeg steps in, and there it is, the silent shotgun. It sounds like it's going to tickle you like an air blast, but no, it's pretty lethal.
Yeah, there's absolutely no tickling going on there whatsoever as Jags goes out of the round, leaving us now 5 versus 3. Wild just crumbling a little bit on this, and as I said, it's come down to that default effort once again. They're trying to work into piano, they're trying to get themselves established over that side, whereas the previous success on top floor has come on that east side of the map. Hungry finds himself at the top red. Aces is going to push along with him. Ooh, Hungry manages to get himself one onto Leon there, just dipping down the stairs to create a little bit of cover for himself. That's a nice kill and brings us back to 4-3, but he did take a lot of damage along the way.
I know someone was saying before that the damage per pellet on the Supernova had been buffed to like an insane level. Ace is finding one more back, and even in things at 3 and 3, but I've just looked at the numbers. Between 0 and 8 meters, it fires 8 pellets that do 48 damage each. Over 13 meters, it's still 8 pellets that do 20 damage each. Both of them basically a guaranteed kill.
Hungry is going to be taken down into a down but not out, leaving us effectively in a 2 versus 2. 20 seconds left to go. There is an opportunity to get Hungry back on his feet, and Wild will take it, leaving us now 3 versus 2. And at the minute, Koi just trying to hold on. They do have a nitro in hand. It is going to be deployed. It does do damage, but not enough. Packbull needs to think about getting this diffuser down though. 4 seconds left to go. Kill into Freezer. It's ice cold right now from Wild as Packbull, he starts getting that diffuser down. He has to stick it. The clock has run out. What can Noodle do here? He's just ducking, diving, dodging, trying to find any angle that he can, trying to find any pressure through towards Cocktail, but the diffuser will be successfully planted. 30 seconds to find 2 kills.
Sees his man as well and just baits out the spray, so he knows exactly where he is, but has got a round on him, has no idea where the second is, but he's got the right idea. They are both inside, goes for the pre-fire, but Packbull spins it round on him. Noodle not winning out the 1 versus 1, and Wild move up to 2 and 1. Bar and Cocktail, Tim. Bar and bloody Cocktail.
Know that I don't like it.
I know, you're not a fan at all.
Do
you care to explain to the kind people why you don't like Bar and Cocktail?
the stats just don't support it being such a popular site.
I'm pretty sure it was like a 40% win rate, while others were like 64%.
It is for defenders. The stats just don't, and they haven't for years, and yet it continues to sit as the primary site choice, and I don't understand it. And I've had, I've said this on stream countless times, and I've had coaches message me and say, why are you hating on bar and stuff? And why are you hating on bar and cocktail? And I say every time the stats just don't support it. And they're like, oh well, we like it. I think it's a comfort thing for teams. They're like, we like it. We're confident up there, and I'm like, that's cool. But I tell you now, the stats don't back you up.
But I tell you now, you suck at it.
It's a 40% win rate for defenders. But yeah, it still seems to be that primary site choice. Reading is generally much better, as is Kitchen, which is where we are going to head now. Wild coming away in that first quarter, then 2-1 up. Not bad at all. 2 successful attacks on the top floor, and that's going to leave them in a reasonably good position, pushing for the remaining 3 attacks. They're going to look to probably... There's 2 options for them on attack here of Kitchen, and that's either take over the top floor control, work their way down, try to get the verticals. If that's the case, we want Teb swinging that sledgehammer at about the 1:30 mark to start taking the floor up and give the verticals, or alternatively, they don't need to play in like that. They can go horizontally, get control of either Bakery or bottom of White Stairs, working through Freezer, and do it that way instead.
Well, a big heavy info game coming out as well from the defenders. The Valkyrie, the Yokai's on side. I'm pretty sure Noodle tossed as well. Most of those Black Eyes scattered around Train. Probably really committed towards C4 base play, and I love this. Teb has got himself inside a stone and could potentially get an easy 2K here, but the shot gives him away. They know exactly where he is. They go for the fight back. He finds one on towards Crying. The Yokai blast coming out as well, but it's not enough. Tucked in behind the bookcase. C4 over the top. That's a very, very dead Teb.
That's going to do the job. A good opener, though, from Teb. Just managing to pick those shots, thread the needle through onto Crying and take him down. And it's a 4 versus 4 as at least Kite are able to trade it out. But they just need to be careful that they don't let this get away from them. If WYLDE are able to find themselves a man advantage now on that mid-floor, they could well pick up the pace.
The real main pain on that, I suppose, is not so much the vertical destruction, but more the nades that were in the back pocket of the sledge. They're now both offline, not available to toss through the floor to take away any shields that will exist downstairs, of which there are 2, or to clear away any of those Kiba barriers that are also down there at the same time. So I think actually, although it's still the 1-for-1, you baited out C4, for example, there'll be very little complaints on the side of Koi to lose the Oryx in exchange for a sledge.
Packball just working those verticals with the puck. Just bad timing there. Has an opportunity to potentially take down Noodle, but won't be able to take it as he just steps away from the angle at the wrong time. 1:05 left to go, so plenty of time for WYLDE. They certainly don't need to panic here, but Leader, keep an eye on the Azami. Down in VIP, could be in a critical position. It's likely with the top floor control that WYLDE will push towards the Freezer, either via hatch or through the soft wall via the book, and that is where the Azami in VIP could play spoiler.
Strong contest around front door with 2 players hanging around there. One out towards White. Aces stepping down for free and, well, I suppose unlucky not to get himself a freebie there. I think it was Noodle who was dancing around. But with the read that everyone's off site, they've got the right call here, I think, WYLDE as well. They've just gone straight towards the site. Patball's looking to step in, go for a plant. They're suspecting more Black Eyes, but none are to be found. And no one on the side of Koi is anywhere to be found as another call rings out from Hungry. They've got away with this one, Tim.
Fantastic plant from WYLDE there, taking the opportunity. Aces finds one. Leon will take down the planter, but with the verticals, it just doesn't matter. Jegs and Aces find the final kills, and WYLDE, they're really starting to impress me, Des. You know I love a plant, and that's 4 rounds, 4 plants. Bring it on!
I mean, looking at that round there, it was a great read when they spotted that 4 players of Koi were off-site. Yeah, they had a player inside of VIP, 2 on front door, 1 out towards Bakery, and they were like, guys, there's no one on site. Let's just call the phones. Let's drop down hatch. Let's go for a plant. They can't stop us. Was really well read and good opportunity spotting on their side. Understandably, Koi here, they're down 3-1 on the defensive side of Cafe. Should never be happening. They're calling the tactical timeout. One player I do want to highlight, I know that he's not top fragging, Patball. Getting those plants down, winning some brilliant 1v1s against players that, I don't think he'll mind me saying this. I get on quite well with Patball. He was not a gunner historically. He was consistently bottom of ratings for his old teams. We stick him on things like Clash.
Get him on the Clash.
We put him on the Clash, so you could avoid the gunfights in many ways. He was also a very good Clash player, but his rating was appalling. Like, he was a plant bot, basically, and that's all he could really do. But so far in this game, he's been hitting shots against players that, let's not forget, 3 of them, not too long ago, won a major.
I feel like historically we have seen, periods of play like this from Packball where he will hit those important shots, he will win those important fights. The important thing for WYLDE and their success, it's not all on Packball's shoulders, but his ability to continue doing that consistently. It's absolutely something we've seen before from him. It's absolutely something that he's got in his locker. The question is, can he start doing it week after week? And if he does, with those sort of planting numbers, 4 rounds, 4 plants, 100%, WYLDE could be a little bit of a surprise package.
Yeah, I'm actually curious if I'm going to find out, but I'm curious if he's the IGL for this team. Because I know that initially he's brought in to be a planter, and he was always an IGL on previous teams, but again, for those who know Packball, he's a pretty quiet guy. He's not like your hyper-vocal IGL, there are sometimes bigger voices than him in the room. So I'm really curious to know if he's IGL. I'm going to find out, and I'll tell you in just a minute.
You find out, Des. For time being, we will enjoy round 5. It's going to be Koi continuing on the defence for 2 more. The Pulse is in action again. Noodle, I don't think really able to squeeze too much value out of it last time, but we will see if they can do a little bit more this time. WYLDE just heading up to the rooftop. It's going to be, again, trying to get themselves into top floor. They didn't do fantastically well last time Koi were in Reading. They didn't win the round. They weren't able to get top floor control, A, until really late, and B, after they'd lost 3 people. And that was the issue, really, for WYLDE. They got Crying cornered and allowed him to wriggle away, allowed him to escape back down into sight, and they need to be more clinical than that.
Oh, Deepex using the right time to get away from dodge there as well, was almost threatened, but Jegs rounds the corner, and I was going to say, a couple of really interesting changes here with the Pulse coming in place of the Echo, but also the Mute being picked up because that Decay beat is running right on the Koi lineup right now. And look at this tip, they're in for a plant.
Plant going down again. This could be 5 out of 5. Absolutely loving what I'm seeing out of this. Seb does manage to stick the plant. Leaves us in a 3 versus 2. I'm not sure if WYLDE have got vertical control here, but it's not going to matter. As Jegs, he manages to take down Leader as he tries to get himself back into sight. It's all up to Crying now in a 1 versus 3. And that is leaving WYLDE just on the hunt at the minute, trying to push around, trying to find where the man is coming from. I think they know the pre-fire through towards White Stairs from the soft wall, and they're just waiting for Crying to make a move. Jegs is the one to see. He manages to tap the head, and that's going to be WYLDE taking another round, and that sees them go 4-1, Des.
I know there's a lot of casters that will probably be watching this to see how their new boys play, looking at the players like Leader, like Jegs, for example, and I think Jegs especially has always been, I don't even want to say like a well-kept secret. Everyone knows that he was one of the most dominating players on the 10-star lineup. Leader, similarly, the IGL for that team, it was a massive loss when he went. And it's kind of a shame because that org has now left Siege as well. But for Jegs especially, when he joined Na'Vi, he was there for a month and a half to play calls, and that was about it. Even then, he put on some really big performances, and here today, you're seeing him do the same once again. A 4K in the round, really making a lot of space for his team by just catching Koi completely off guard. That kill there was unbelievable, his second one, but goes on to just complete things out there and round it out for his team. Really good round from Jegs, and did you predict Koi to win this game?
I did, yeah.
I think no one would be like demean or bemoan you for that at all, because while being up 4-1 for me is definitely the surprise of the day.
I couldn't predict WYLDE as such a brand new team. Same as TT9. I predicted Heroic for the same reason. I just couldn't predict them as such a brand new team. And it's fascinating, really. It gives us a really good sort of case in point as to, how new teams can function really badly or really well to begin with. We've got one that's gone in either direction. TT9 have really struggled. WYLDE have actually come out and hit the ground running. That might change in the second half, we'll see. But what's impressed me so far, as I've already said, and I will say again, 5 rounds, 5 plants, 3 different planters. My concern for WYLDE is that game's play style might not work consistently week after week. If you go in and teams are like, right, they're just going to try and plant every round, they will lean into that.
Well, we get to find out tomorrow because they play against Secret on play day 2, which is, of course, tomorrow. Just to remind all of you, in case you haven't kept up with it, we do now have 2 play days a week. Monday and Tuesday is when the Europe League will be played here under Blast's new scheme. So, don't forget to tune in tomorrow. Yes, your drops will be on as well, but there are still 4 more games to come tomorrow. We've also got Koi playing against Wolves in the last game of the day, and given how this game's been going so far, Tim, I'd be nervous if I was Koi going into that matchup.
I would. I'd be nervous about going into any matchup at the minute if I was going. This reminds me, Des, of... You'll remember the game. It was a week 1 game previously.
My memory's terrible.
It was as Rogue, not as Koi. It was on Cafe, and they were awful. And I think it was maybe week 1, stage 1. It might have been the very first game of 2022 as well. And they were just really, really bad. And I'm just sort of starting to think they should not be starting anything on Cafe ever.
They look. I mean, I can understand why this was their permaban. For those who don't know, this was their permaban map for basically all of last year, and now you're starting to really see why. They're just stepping into odd positions and being picked off. They're peeking things and losing gunfights. Wild looks supremely comfortable against them, and like they have an answer to everything that Koi are doing.
I always like to look at it from that perspective, for everybody at home, what can you learn from this? What can you take away? What can you think coming into the next play day? And the thing to learn here is that Koi should not be picking Cafe. That's the way that it looks at the minute. Unless they really show us something on attack and are able to run this back, they're potentially going to need 6-0. The drop comes in, 1 kill, leaves us now in a 2v1. Packbull and Hungry just need to work together here. It's up to Leader. He's going to need something special, and that's a good start. Right. Putting the Storm to good use. Leaves him now in a 1v1 against Packbull.
And what a player to do it against as well. Oh, he looks the wrong way at the wrong time. Leader with a 4K. I would normally scream and be like, yo, let's go. But at the same time, I also can't ignore that those are his first 4 kills in the entire game so far. It's taken 6 rounds to get himself on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And I hate putting the pressure on him. I love the guy as well. I like all these players. But, when you're joining a team like this, a team, again, that's won a major recently, you've got to put on a good show in your first appearance, and to take 6 rounds to really make an impact, it's not the dream start. But either way, Koi have got 2 rounds on the board. It gives them a little bit of breathing space. Now we've got to see some phenomenal attacking. Oh, what? A mining start, Tim.
Okay. The thing is for Wild now, look at it like this. Even if Wild lose this map, it's not the end of the world for them. They've come out, they've had a very good start, they've got a lot of plants down, they've played some good Siege so far. And I kind of like what I'm seeing from them. And
they play a beatable Team Secret, I think.
I'd expect them to pick up a round or 2 on defence, maybe. That sounds like I'm writing them off from the win. I'm talking I'm talking in a case of if they don't win. I think they possibly will go on and win this. But if they don't, my point here is that for me, Wild have already kind of won this match. Win or lose, they've come away from it with a real positive. They will bounce out of this game and know that other teams are beatable for them.
You're that guy who's like, everyone gets a medal.
No, I'm not.
Participation medals.
No. Winners get medals.
Like, guys, you lost the game, but be happy.
No, winners get medals. But my point is, for a first performance from Wild, I think if you turned up and said you're going to get beat, but it's 7-4 against Koi, I think they'd have said, you know what, fair play, we can learn from that.
I agree.
I think this is already a good outcome for Wild, no matter what happens. Do I think they're going to win? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think they will as well. Now they've gone to the defensive side and they've chosen mining. Clearly, they've got some strats ready on here that they're going to try and keep Koi guessing with. Here come the pushes, though. Starting to open up a couple of hatches here as the call comes in at the same time. No one really making any movements. It's more of a bait in a sense to try and force Wild into swinging, but no one goes for an aggressive play like that. You got Packbull right under the hatch here, or not under the hatch, under the skylight, sorry, and being a little bit cheeky about it. Picking out a drone and backing away, but they forget about the player who's playing out on the new rappel. And it's Packbull going down to Leon.
That is where things could start turning around now. Obviously you've got to be very aware of so many angles on Cafe, so many different windows, rotations that can be cut off, and Wild really need to make sure that they are on top of that, or it could become problematic for them. A good opener there for Leon onto Packbull, but still half of the round wasted, 1 man lost. It's not the end of the world. It's the Melusi that's gone, so the Banshees are already down, the gadgetry is already there. I think WYLDE, whilst maybe not happy, will be okay with the way things have gone so
I mean,
far.
it was a massive risk. It was a rat ball play rather than a pat ball play, I think. And there we go. Things equalise straight back out. Oh, and Hungry gets the next as well. Just as Leader comes in for the swing. 3 versus 3. Are you really going to complain too much if you've lost to Malusi and Naruni when all your gadgets are already out on the field? Maybe a little bit now with Teb being caught out by the Keeper Barricade. Leader steps in. A great couple of rounds. He's having Tim up to 6 kills. He goes and takes the lead for his team.
Yeah, just restricting his movement onto White Stairs there, and it was just that fraction of a second that cost him. It shows what fine margins we're dealing with here, and Teb is the one that falls foul. 40 seconds left to go, 3 versus 2. Koi looking good at the minute. They can start pushing in towards site now. They've got that vertical control. Jegs on the Azami. He's not going to make it. I was going to say he's not going to make it easy for them to get in there. Able to just deploy a little bit of extra cover and just hold those angles now and wait. 20 seconds left to go, and they need to think about how this diffuser goes down.
Oh, I can see a Jags clutch coming. I can just feel it coming, Tim. I swear to God, if he dies out of one bullet, I'm going to cry. But here we are. Lining up for one. Finds one for himself. The second one coming down red corridor. They know the man's there thanks to the yellow ping, but does he know about the one closer? Yes, he does, but Deepek wins it out. They've got the diffuser. Ace is left standing, but can they get into a spot to plant? Sure enough, they can. Temporary 1v1, but Aces. He has the long-range shot, and I think of one of those, Tim. I think we saw this way back when on Chalet, back when he was on Rogue. A kill from West Main into Kitchen on a slither of an angle, just like that.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Really what you're seeing there is experience. Again, for those maybe a little bit newer to Europe League, if you haven't watched for sort of years, you may not be familiar with Aces. You may not have seen his game before.
I apologise. I owe you an apology.
You caught that, did you?
I was not familiar with your game.
Well, I wasn't going to make the new viewers apologise, but it is reasonable that they might not have seen Aces play. As you say, he's had a little bit of an absence from the top tier, but make no mistake, he's played on the biggest stages. He's got an absolute ton of experience, and Aces is one who will very calmly close out a 1v2 situation like that. Plays into the clock beautifully, knows where his angle is, knows where the likely plant spot is, and takes full advantage, brings that experience to bear, and you love to see it. It was really well played from WYLDE, and as I said, I feel like this sort of the shackles are coming off a little bit here, Des. They've already, I'm sure that they want to come out and win. Of course they do. They want to win every game, but there's got to be an element of them feeling like, actually, we've sort of achieved what we set out to achieve here. We've turned up, we've had a decent performance, we've got 5 rounds against, stage 2 major champions Koi. Even if we lose this from here, so what? And I think that just takes a lot of pressure off, and you can see that in the way they play him.
No, completely agree. It's looking solid, and that's what I like about it. Jegs performing how he does, not unexpected. Jegs is one of those talents that I think over the next year or so, you will really see him climb to new heights. Now, obviously, I hope that stays with the WYLDE team, and this team stays as a solid 5 roster and continues to surprise, but if not, he's the kind of player that I think a number of teams will start looking at that are in the top 4, top 5 teams and saying, we'd quite fancy a Jegs in our lineup at some point. Would not surprise me in the slightest. Here's a hot drop though, straight inside, and open to catch his player on stage. Noodle looking for the man, but can't find Teb.
No, WYLDE are pretty ready. They're going to play in behind those laser gates and just prevent any throwable utility coming in. Noodle does manage to get aggressive on towards Bar. It is the mid floor they're attacking onto, remember. Koi are currently just trying to get top floor control to use the verticals. It's not Bar and Cocktail that they're going to be attacking, and it pretty much plays into what I was saying about the stats, Des, and the defenders always favouring the top floor as a site, but we're not seeing that. Jegs, he manages to get one. The trade is going to be there from Crying, but Packball manages to find Deepek. 4 versus 3, 4 versus 2. As Teb picks up Crying, it's all falling apart, Des. I feel like the heads have gone.
They went long ago, it feels like, Tim. I don't know if they ever really loaded into the server, to be honest with you. It's looking pretty dire. A 4v2 with one pinned up on stage. The map is basically WYLDE's to control. And Koi, well, they've got a lot of work to do.
They certainly do. Teb, look at him. He's just absolutely wedged in here. What a shot from Teb! Steps up and absolutely slams Noodle in cigar shot. Beautiful from him. And then another. If you thought the first was good, the second got better. Unreal play. Good job he was on the stage, Des. What a performance.
That's the place to do it from. Built a fortress around himself, playing on the Azami as well, and I thought to myself, all right, it's a 2 versus 4. Sure, he's against 2 players by himself pinned on stage while the other 3 are playing it really smart. You know, some of you might look at that and go, well, why aren't they helping him? He's clearly pinned alone and needs it. He can lose his life there, and the rest of the team are still in a 3 versus 2, and they're confident they can win the situation. But the fact that he just plants his feet a little left, a little right, and takes out both players, again, speaks to the confidence that we're seeing coming out of this Wild side. 6-2, Koi looking like a shadow of their former selves here, and being made mincemeat here on Cafe.
I love this second one. I honestly thought the first couldn't get better. Oh, just absolutely.
What do you do? How do you respond to that?
Through the eye of the needle. You don't, do you? That's the point where you just take your hands off the keyboard and wait for the next round to start, because there's just absolutely nothing that you can say to that. There's nothing. There is nothing. But the point is, that is the sort of thing that really breaks the mentality of a team. You get to a point. You've probably felt it, you know, you probably experienced it yourself at home in ranked. You get to a point whereby you just think, there's nothing I can do against this team. There's just not, if I'm going to get slammed with a shot like that, you know what, fair play, you've probably won this one, because there's nothing I can do about it. Unreal. Well played, Teb.
It's a real tough one for Koi. A real tough one, and clearly still a lot of work to be done to figure this one out. We're at the point where even Jegs is thinking about spawn peaks here, maybe even a repeat coming in. Sure enough, he's really fancied his chances, but you're asking for an awful lot there to go back in for a second time round. Oh my god, he makes it a third.
Please stop.
And does get some shit damage down as well. Both Noodle and Crying, roughly about half HP.
Okay, Koi, you need to get yourselves inside of the building safely. That's going to be my first stipulation.
Oh my god, there's a player that you right in front of
really is. And I love the confidence from WYLDE here. They're just like at every window, every door. They're right up at the thresholds.
This is how Koi used to play.
Yes, it is.
Back when they had Spoit on side, back when they even had Kanto on side, it would be how they'd play. Admittedly, it would be players like Spoit and Crying, the ones looking to go a little bit cheeky. Leon sometimes joining in the fun. But you are seeing that real, shell of a team from what we once knew as the Berlin major champions. Obviously, they still are, but it's going to take time for Leader and Noodle to blend in with his team a little bit, for them to figure things out. And the thing is, Tim, I look up and down, there's like the kill feed, or the leaderboard, sorry. They are getting kills. They are doing things in these rounds. They're just not able to get the end products.
I don't want to focus on the players and the roster changes too much. As you said, it needs time to be worked in, to be settled down. There is a bit of me that thinks, not all of it, but there is a lot of this falling on the map as well.
It's their permaban, right?
It is their permaban. And like I say, I remember very, very vividly. I think it was stage 1, match 1 last year, and they again were just terrible on it as Rogue. And you just think, you've got to learn those lessons. Yeah. And so I think there is an element of that. I think we are going to see better performances out of Koi. But right now, I don't want to take a thing away from WYLDE, because they have come out and won this. This is not Koi losing it. WYLDE have come out and won this. They've won big gunfights. They've won big clutches. They've done everything they've needed to do. They've been in command.
Again, love these boys. I play League of Legends with Hungry sometimes. Like, look, I'm friends with them all, but I think it would be... I'll address the elephant in the room. Many looked at WYLDE and said, these are the rejects of teams gone by. Hungry's gone through so many different teams and been that flex player. Patbull's been picked up and put down so many times over the years that they look like a team that was just scrapped together. But look at him there, getting a double kill. Even Noodle hits the deck, and Patbull saying, drop me again, I dare you. Drops 3 to the deck, there's 1 left standing, and WYLDE have marched their way through Koi. What a play day 1 performance from a team that very few had high expectations of.
They've just absolutely destroyed a team that won a major only a matter of 7 months ago. That is absolutely unbelievable from WYLDE. Coming in here, as you say, a roster that's been picked up from a number of locations.